Hey guys, today we talked about sales, or more specifically, sales at a tech company. And I was very skeptical at first, but this is a conversation I actually learned quite a lot in. There's a lot of similarities in salesmen and developers. Customer success still needs to be central and at the forefront. Today's guest is VP of Sales at Digivante, Richard Kelsey.
Beyond Coding. Welcome to Beyond Coding, a dive into the world of successful people in IT. From your sponsors, Zebia, creating digital leaders. Here's your host, Patrick Akil.
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, I feel like I'm on, coming here this morning felt like a mini vacation.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
You like Hilversum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So
Chill,
a lot of green.
relax, calm, green. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bit of a escape from Amsterdam.
Nice, man. Nice. So I brought you here to talk about sales.
Yes.
But before we do that, I kind of want to learn how you got into sales.
Yep.
How did that go?
I think probably like a lot of people, it was just a bit of I fell into it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Okay.
So I went to uni in America and I studied business and I actually really wanted to get into the music industry.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was chasing the American dream.
that is the American dream.
Yeah. Not as a musician,
Yeah.
by the way, before you ask.
As a producer.
Purely a little bit in production, yeah. Like I learned a bit about production, so I at least knew what was going on,
Yeah.
but more from the management and marketing side.
Ah, cool.
And then basically that didn't work out because it's a very, very tough industry to get into.
Yeah.
And I was in the US and I wanted to stay there and I was starting to look for jobs after uni.
Yeah.
And I just came across this company that was positioning itself as very entrepreneurial, high growth, blah, blah, blah. Not knowing it at the time, but it was basically a typical SaaS company
Yeah.
that was on like a really high growth curve.
Okay.
So I ended up there, basically.
Yeah.
I remember doing the interview and shadowing their salespeople for the job that I was interviewing for.
Yeah.
And thinking like, oh God, this is like proper sales. They're like calling people and
Yeah.
trying to get them to buy stuff. And I didn't like the idea of it at all, but I was really attracted to the company and,
Okay.
and I needed the job and yeah.
But you didn't actually like sales then? Why did you apply for the job?
I applied for the job because the company was great.
Yeah.
The culture of the company, it was super young, again,
Yeah.
SaaS, rapid growth, cool office like this, all the kind of good stuff that comes with it.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, because being English in the US, I also needed a visa.
That makes sense.
And like probably 2 in 10 companies would be willing to sponsor you as well. So
Okay.
that came into it.
It's cool that they did that then, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what was your initial kind of thought about sales and how has it evolved then throughout the years?
Yeah, good question. I think there's a lot of ways to go with it. I think high level, before we get into maybe some other stuff in more detail,
Sure.
is when I thought of sales, I probably think of like consumer sales,
Yeah.
which a lot of people do, which is very quick and it's about convincing and it's about arguably kind of the negative side of sales, those like pressure tactics and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and trying to just convince and persuade, and then 10 minutes later someone gets buyer's remorse and thinks, oh
Exactly.
God, what have I done?
Yeah.
I've just bought like a pen for no reason or something from the street. Do you know what I mean? And then I realized it's more about, actually the best definition I've heard of sales is facilitating the buying process.
Okay. I like that.
So an organizational person needs something and
Yeah.
you are facilitating and partnering with them and coaching them, etc., through that process to buy something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Because
think
it
that
should be a win-win, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that appreciation of the more wider context of sales,
Yeah.
and that it is a longer process, not just like a quick transaction thing.
Yeah.
I think that's how my perception of sales has changed.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because I have to admit I had a negative connotation with sales, and I think it in general has a bad name, right? You never want to talk to a salesman,
Yeah.
because you kind of feel like they want to sell you something, and you're
Yeah.
gonna have to say no or listen to their story.
Yeah.
But I like that you mentioned that it should be a win-win. Right? You probably have a solution, but you first need to figure out their problem to see if it's a fit.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a fit, then it can be that win-win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
When was it that it kind of evolved for you? Was it throughout the years, or did you learn
I
that
think
pretty
it's
quickly?
gradually throughout the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've always had like a healthy skepticism for it as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't think I'm just complete diehard, sales is everything and all that it is. And
Yeah.
the best salespeople are kind of non-salespeople
Okay.
in a way. And
Yeah.
whenever you're ready, we can go more into like the actual process behind sales and how if you really look into it and really understand it, it's very different than what a lot of people think, which again is all about like the convincing and stuff, but it's not really that.
Yeah. How'd you get from the US to where you are now?
Okay, so the company I mentioned that I worked for, they were like an event management and event marketing SaaS company.
Yeah.
That was like an amazing experience. I think it was 300 employees when I started, something like 2,000 by the end.
Really cool.
And there's that kind of all boats rise in high tide kind of thing. So great growth experience, lots of challenge, blah, 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 traveling all around the US.
Nice.
I was also doing sales in the UK.
Okay.
So someone had that smart idea.
Yeah.
They're like, this Brit walks through the door and they're like, he can sell
Get
to
him
people in England.
Yeah.
It was funny actually, because they kind of had the perception that like, as if no English people have ever tried to sell to English people.
Yeah.
And just because I'm an English person selling to English people, they'll just buy whatever I have because they can't believe I'm not American.
Exactly. Yeah.
But obviously that wasn't the case. So yeah, I did that for 6 years. That was a great experience.
Nice.
And in general, I was just ready to move on from the US.
Yeah.
I'd been there for like 10 years.
Okay.
And then UK obviously being my home. But I left the UK when I was 19 and moved back when I was 29.
Yeah.
So I didn't really experience it as like an adult. I basically grew up in the US, so to
Exactly.
speak, during that like key years of the 20s.
Yeah.
So that's why I ended up back there.
Was there a lot of like cultural differences then? Because you, from 19 to 29, you learn a lot about the US, I'd say.
For sure.
And then when moving, did it like affect anything you were doing?
Not too much.
Okay.
A little bit, because I mean, at worst, like I always sounded the same. I picked up a few Americanisms.
Yeah.
And then had a slight different interest in maybe music or sports and stuff like that. But you'll never forget your English or British if you're in America.
Yeah.
So it's not like easy to kind of like leave that behind. And I was always stayed close to mates and family and would always travel back like 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't a big segue either way, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then I'm wondering, you and I already chatted before the show.
Yeah.
And I think you have the qualities of what it takes to be a good salesman.
After you've already said that you view sales as negative. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem, man, no problem. But what do you think makes an actual good salesman compared to kind of the maybe the more general salesperson that people have that negative connotation with?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of average salespeople, and a lot of average salespeople can do quite well.
Yeah,
and they're oftentimes lucky because it's just really good product market fit or good timing or whatever.
Yeah.
I think great salespeople, or at least the base level things that you need, is you need to be curious.
Yeah.
Right. You need to be goal orientated, because you've always got your quota, your number, that sort of stuff needs to drive you.
Yeah.
Aside from the financial aspect. You also need to be competitive.
Okay.
Right. Because there's a lot of poor days in sales.
Yeah.
You know, there's the rejection side of it. There's the losses.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you've been working on a sizable opportunity for a long time, 6 months, 12 months, and then you lose it, that's pretty rough. So to be able to pick yourself back up and be competitive is important.
Yeah.
So a lot of sales managers like to hire athletic people.
Okay.
Yeah. If you've competed, especially in the US, from what I've seen, if you've competed in team sports, sales hiring managers really like that.
Okay. Because then they know you have that competitiveness in you.
Exactly.
To basically have what it takes.
Yeah. Thick skin. And then I think 2 final ones that might be surprising, depending on how much you know, is skepticism.
Okay.
It's very important.
Okay.
That's something I really want to talk about, because being optimistic in sales is important. But if you try to sell everybody, that's what a bad salesperson does.
Okay.
Great salespeople disqualify. Disqualify means deciding that a potential buyer is not a fit for your product or service.
Yeah.
And you actually saying no to them.
Okay.
Thanks for your interest, but we can't help you.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't mean there's 0% chance that you can help you, but you've got finite resources, you've got limited time. You want to spend your time with the organizations that are most likely to be able to buy from you.
Yeah.
And that can mean a lot of different things. Or another way to spin it is you want to spend your time with the organizations that will get the most value from your product or service.
Okay.
Even though there's some others that may buy, but they won't get the most from it.
Yeah.
So skepticism and being able to disqualify and manage that whole process is important.
Yeah.
And also challenging customer or prospect.
In what way?
So to answer that question, there's a book that's very well known. Ask any salesperson, they'll know it, called The Challenger Sale.
Okay.
And it was written by an organization actually in DC where I used to live, but they've since been bought by Gartner,
Okay.
which everyone knows, obviously, right? The research firm. And what they did is they researched a load of salespeople and they put them into 5 categories.
Yeah.
There's the challenger sale. There's something like the lone wolf. There's something like the relationship builder and a couple of others.
Yeah.
And I think the common misconception is that aside from sales maybe being a bit like slimy and persuasive, it's all about just being everyone's friend.
Okay.
And building relationships and taking clients out for like the steak and the champagne and the golf and all that kind of stuff. But they did the analysis and they found that the most successful salespeople actually challenge their customers.
Okay.
They look to change the customer's way of thinking.
Yeah.
They look to change the customer's status quo.
Yeah.
And I love it. They look to not be invited into the customer's comfort zone, but challenge the customer's comfort zone.
Okay.
So they also lose the most opportunities.
Yeah.
Because they piss customers off sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're actually bringing real value. They're saying, hey, you want to do that instead of just trying to be accepted by the customer and saying, God, I hope that they like me and my product.
Yeah.
They will challenge them. Actually, you should be considering it this way.
Okay.
And it has to be backed up by like important data and case studies and stuff like that. But that challenger profile, I think, is key as well.
Interesting, because I mean, from a consultancy perspective, that's also what a consultant does, right? They can get hired for a specific job to, let's just give an example, do a QA and analysis on the platform.
Yeah.
And they can be like, well, actually what you need is proper architecture or someone that looks at your quality and challenge the customer in that way. So then they get in through completely something else and end up doing something else because they challenge the customer and they see more value in that aspect then as well.
And that's sometimes, I mean, organizations should really value those traits in people. I honestly think regardless of the role, to be honest, you don't want to be working with difficult people that are just challenging things for the sake of it.
Exactly.
And being abrasive. But whether it's sales or especially in consultancy, but that's the harder path to take.
It is.
It's easier to just like I said, enter the customer's comfort zone.
Yeah.
Be friends with them, go through the motions, but you're not really a value add.
Exactly.
A good sales process in itself, even if you don't buy, should literally be valuable for the prospect or the customer.
Yeah.
They should learn things from just engaging with that salesperson in that organization.
Yeah, that's really cool. It makes you seem very honest and more relatable. I mean, that's how just a general interaction should be.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, hey, I want to sell you this.
Yeah, because that's what I think that's another negative impression, isn't it? That like whether you need it or not, the salesperson is just going to try and then push it on you. And I think it's a frustration that salespeople have. It's understandable, but what any organization that's buying something to do is they'll typically hold their cards very close to their chest.
Yeah.
Because probably through experience, if they're too open, the salesperson can perhaps manipulate that, use that to their advantage and sell them something that they don't really need.
You're going to pounce.
But it's kind of like, on a segue, it's kind of like to have an ideal relationship, you know, you've got to risk getting hurt.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like I think companies should really open their cards, be very transparent about their business and what the challenges are.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to truly find the right partner.
Yeah. To
help them with those challenges.
Yeah, that takes a lot of trust.
And that takes a lot of trust. And understandably, you got to like build that trust up. And that's also what the salesperson's job is to build that trust and rapport. Yeah. Which, to bring it back, maybe comes from, instead of just trying to be everyone's friend, if you can challenge them and build credibility and honesty that way.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll be like, oh, this guy or girl, like, let's actually tell them about what our real problem is.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and try and find a real solution.
Yeah. I mean, if it's like a playground and you say no to a lot of people, word goes around that you are more honest.
Yeah.
And that when there is a fit, it might actually be a good fit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Easier said than done, though.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Especially when, you know, Google calls you and stuff like that, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'd love to sell to them. I'll tell them whatever they want to hear.
Actually, we found the virus on your computer, so just grab that. Yeah, that's very funny. But you moved from sales in kind of the music industry, if that's an accurate way to call it, to more of the IT business and the tech sector.
Yeah.
Has there been a lot of change there, or is it still kind of the same principles apply there?
You mean in switching industries?
Yeah.
I think the principles are very different.
Okay.
But I'm not close to that industry anymore.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen from the odd friend and whatnot, the industries are becoming closer.
Okay.
Because partly what my current company does, which is helping people basically scale their QA function in light of how digital the world is becoming.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this based on the clients that you work with or whatever, but pretty much most companies, apart from maybe oil and gas or some super old school component widget manufacturing or something, most companies are becoming just more and more like a tech company first, or they at least need to be on that journey.
Yeah.
So you're a tech company first, and then the second thing is you sell whatever products and services you sell. So from what I've seen, music is going more in that direction. Like I was surprised to see like Kanban boards for a recording project.
Oh, that's cool.
And the tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, the Post-its, and I think they've taken that from the tech world. And of course you have the big players that sit in the middle, like your Spotify's and stuff, that I think maybe they've perhaps started to show the actual old school aspect of the music industry.
Yeah. It could be.
How to do it, yeah.
Nice. But then the tech sector in itself, you already mentioned as a salesperson, you should be competitive, right? But we have a lot of companies that kind of do a similar thing, either consultancy or they're visual oriented in their agencies and they take on projects. But there's a lot of them out there. How do you kind of distinguish yourself either as a company or as a sales rep then?
Yeah, I think it's hard.
Yeah.
I think it's getting increasingly harder.
Yeah.
2 reasons, because competition in general, because barriers to entry in most industries are lower than they've ever been.
Yeah.
So I think competition's higher than ever. And also I think the customers or the prospects that you're hoping to do business with, they're more empowered than ever before.
Yeah.
If you think way back when, like literally before the internet, the salespeople were literally the fountain of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's how they were also able to like get away with some like dirty tricks and manipulation and stuff.
Some shenanigans there.
Yeah, exactly. Like you had, if you wanted to know about a product or service, there was no website.
No, you'd have to trust them.
Yeah, maybe you could get some mail order brochure or something, but you had to talk to the salesperson. That's where you got information from. Whereas now that's totally changed. And I don't remember the exact figure, but most prospective customers do about 80% of their research in terms of a timeline, a sales process, and a quantity of data. About 80% of their research before they engage with the organization that they're looking to buy from. So you have to realize that and therefore switch it up.
But then the sales process already starts out with the information you put out there as a company.
Yes.
Right? Because all the other companies can just find you and read through your information and then contact you.
Yeah. That's where marketing comes into it. So marketing these days is gone sort of absolutely crazy. It's so data driven.
Yeah.
And it starts with looking to build relationships and credibility and be thought leaders, provide documentation, white papers, webinars, stuff like this, whatever, you know, to build some credibility and brand. And that could be a multi-year journey before at some point that little seed turns into something and the person contacts you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of competitive, I mean, from a sales and marketing point of view, execution is important.
Yeah.
But I think it's only marginally important, especially from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
Like marketing teams are sending themselves absolutely crazy to kind of iterate on the data, and like it's almost forgetting that you're dealing with humans.
Yeah.
And that might improve, I don't know, 5 or 10%. But I think brand and credibility is more important than ever.
Yeah.
And it seems like you've got to flood the market to be able to do that. I think companies that have the largest voice in the B2B world on LinkedIn, for example, even if it's just subconsciously, I think that sort of organizations recognize that and are more likely to work with those kind of companies to do that. Yeah.
Because it gives you kind of an authority.
Yeah,
just by means of numbers.
Definitely. Like if you have an amazing product or service, but no one's heard of you, you're gonna struggle. Yeah. Yeah. Which means that you have to invest quite a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then from a sales process, a lot of research that companies like Gartner have done, they've actually said that one of the key reasons of selecting the provider they did was also the sales process itself.
Okay.
Because the sales process, for the best part, is a pretty good window of what the organization's likely to work with. Yeah. Unless you've got like a complete cowboy, but usually a sales process will be representative of the organization. Okay. So if that's pleasant people, smart people, ran very well, on time to meetings, organized, valuable, well prepared. Yeah, challenge you. Then let's say if it's project work after that, you'd assume that they're going to be a decent project team to work with. Yeah, that makes sense. But it's slim margins there. Competition, I think, is really tough.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I heard of it first on one of these episodes, actually. I was talking with Sergio, and he said the sales talk that you've probably heard is not that much anymore. It's all about network and getting the connections and building the trust and putting yourself out there actually as a brand to get the customer to trust you initially. And then the closing, as they call it, is way less than what it used to be. Mm-hmm. You probably agree on that, right?
I think depends what it means by way less. Because what you've actually seen is sales processes have increased in complexity.
Okay.
But I don't know why that is. I'm not sure if it's maybe because people are it's easier to engage and talk with people.
Okay.
Because barriers to communication have dropped, especially across, disparate offices in multiple countries and stuff. I'm talking about the buying organization.
Sure.
And sales processes have actually gotten longer.
Okay.
But maybe the earlier stages of it are all handled by like automation and data and stuff like that. But again, I don't know the exact figure, but the average buying group or number of people in an organization who need to make a decision on a purchase has actually gone up.
Okay.
And the chances that the dreaded no decision, which is let's just stick with the status quo because our heads are just spinning, the chances of that have actually increased as well. Yeah. This is all like in B2B IT sales, basically.
That makes sense.
Not for necessarily every sector.
Yeah, no worries. You mentioned that when you get that no, right, it's already a long process for a customer to show up on your doorstep and to go into that sales process. What that means, we'll say for later. But to get that no at the end, even though it might take you 6 months to get there, you already said it's kind of gut-wrenching and it's hard to deal with. How do you deal with that?
It can be. Well, I think it's just like anything. You need to learn to be preventative in the first place.
Okay.
Because in sales, what's very important, especially from a management point of view, is you have your sales funnel. Right, which is if you literally picture a funnel shape, you've got all your various different opportunities. So at the very top, you've got a lot of opportunities, and then some will drop out, right? And your funnel gets narrower and narrower, and then at the end, you have a smaller number of much more concrete, much more solid opportunities. So when you get to the end, if you're doing your job, you should have a pretty high close rate on those. What salespeople often struggle with is what's called happy ears.
Okay.
Where a sales opportunity actually isn't great at all. Whether it's because it's not a good fit, or they don't have the budget, or you're not talking to the right people. And they haven't even realized that they haven't even realized those things.
So it's a prospect that goes down the funnel, and I think the longer you are in the funnel, the more time you spend on that prospect.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of time is invested, a lot of money, because also sales is never a one-person army. You're involving lots of people on both sides.
Exactly.
So then you might have bad conversion rates as a result. So going back to what I said, where I think early on, if you can be skeptical, because you have to realize, and it took me a while to realize this as well, that every person or organization you talk to, even those that are a great fit, even those that love your product or service, even if you're best mates with the CEO, statistically are more likely to not buy from you.
Okay.
Without doubt, in every single case.
Okay.
So a common, this like top of the funnel thing where you first start talking to a company, most organizations will predict that has a 5 to probably 15 or maybe 20% chance of becoming a customer. And then maybe it goes to 30, 40, and sometimes 80%. But that's even when you're in legal negotiation, there's still a 20% chance that could
drop out.
That could fall out. So I think you need to realize that and be as skeptical as possible and really think, why would this person actually buy from us? Why would they actually change the way that they are doing things? But let's say if someone came along to you with the idea of an amazing studio, but it's on the other side of the country. You're not just going to go, oh, that studio is great, so I'm going to do it.
Exactly.
You're going to think, what's the logistics? Do we have the budget? Do I want to travel there? Who else would need to be involved in this? Like there's a lot more to it.
Exactly.
So I think if you're really skeptical at the start, that can help you to focus on the most concrete opportunities. So therefore you get less no's further down the line. As far as when the no comes, I mean, it's just however you deal with rejection in other areas of life, I guess. It's tough. It does suck. You've got to just roll with it. Absorb the opportunity.
You build up that thick skin.
You build up a thicker skin. You get over it, and you're probably going to learn from the opportunity as well. If you're if you're able to do that, you can have a really good retro. You usually learn more with anything, right? You learn more from losses than wins a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So you can take a lot out of it, but yeah, it always sucks. There's
that makes sense.
There's no magic way to put a rosy spin on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities actually with software development, more than I initially thought, because just the way you're talking about a prospect, right? If I'm building a software product, I need to know about my customer who's going to use it, in which context, in the different ways they can use it, in the way I intended for them to use it. I need to test my assumptions and make sure that it is actually a fit. It's kind of the same in a sales process, at least how you describe it. And then even kind of reflecting on how your product is doing. Is it performing as well as we thought it would? What can we learn? What has not actually worked? So we can fix that and learn from those. Very similar. Just very basic things, I guess.
Well, I think the good ones do it. I think another trait that's important, which is to me in a way summarize partly what you said apart from the actual coding itself, is process management. Right? You've created something. What does someone think? Does it meet their needs / expectations? No, yes, okay, iterate slightly, take that feedback. Great salespeople aren't afraid to do that throughout the sales process.
Exactly.
Constantly check, gauge, measure, see where they are. All with the customer value in mind. Try and hopefully remove the guessing game out of the sales process, which is usually what it is.
That makes
do you think
sense.
most developers take that mindset, do you think? Where they really kind of are that conscious about the customer and checking with them and using that feedback?
I think it's growing. I think people or developers used to just take in requirements. And I mean, Kenny laid it out, and he quoted a guy whose name I can't remember, but he said the assumptions of the developers is actually what's going live, right? It's not your requirements. It's not what the customer needs. It's how the developer interprets the requirements. And the more the developer understands the customer, as well as the domain and the business that they're in, the better that assumption is actually going to make sense, and it might reflect the reality as it was intended. Right? So the more close you are to that customer and the whole process, even understanding your business, the better your software is going to be because of that.
I think another thing actually good salespeople do is incorporate as much of their organization as possible.
Okay.
Because it's good to build relationships. I think that helps with the trust side of things. But they also care about the customer actually getting end value. Like one of the guys I work with, he says he wants to leave the world in a better place than he found it. Right?
Beautiful.
Which is a really nice way to put it. And he kind of lives that through the way that he sells. But him and many others that I've known are actually really focused beyond. They don't just get the contract and disappear. They genuinely want to first of all sell something that is real, that they feel is providing value, and then make sure that value is executed on. So if as a salesperson as well as a process manager, if you can be a people orchestrator and do things like maybe be in the ear of the devs and sense check with them, like, do you understand these requirements? Do you understand their business even? And what they're trying to get out of it, rather than just like narrowly just coding these stories or whatever. So it's interesting you mentioned that, because I think that's a thing that people should do more.
I think so too.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's still a collaboration, right? If you understand what I'm doing, it doesn't need to be into the technical details, just high over what it takes to develop a feature. And I understand how you get a sale or what the business process needs. You can make that perfect match also internally in an organization. Doesn't have to be cross-organization, right? And even with consultancy, like everyone inside our unit or Exebia has their own specialization. But whenever we realize that the customer need is actually different, we have that company backing us and more people that are more specialized in different aspects of software that we can actually advise and be like, no, well, you don't actually need me. You need Rich because he has skills in this and this and this. And actually challenge the customer to see it that way. Right? A customer always comes to us with a certain problem, but it might not be the actual problem that they have. It might just be a problem on the surface. But it's our job to actually come down to the problem they actually have. And then find the solution that fits.
That's the same thing with what I mentioned during the sales process. I think it's tougher to do then, at least once you have a customer relationship, the level of transparency does change. But ideally during the sales process, you can uncover similar things. What helps me at my current organization is, as well as looking after sales, I also look after the customer success team. Which is surprisingly rare.
Yeah.
Usually you have like a VP of sales and then a VP of customer success.
Yeah.
Right. And if an organization's big enough, you pretty much need that because they are very big units and different functions.
Okay.
But ideally, if you have someone sitting across, they're then managing the internal team, people, and process across that whole thing.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a VP of sales, obviously they're going to be pretty invested in the company. They're going to really care about customers being successful.
Yeah.
But they're still going to be mostly focused on finding new customers and closing them and helping their team get the contract.
Exactly.
Right. Whereas I think it's really nice to bridge the two, because then we can do what you're talking about, is continue that orchestration of people and value and making sure that the customer gets the most out of things.
Yeah.
You know, they're a full stakeholder of both sides.
Yeah, that's also super relatable, right? When let's say we build an e-commerce website, it's not done when it's live.
Yeah.
That's when it starts, because that's how we can learn and make it successful and iterate on what we have. That's where the customer success phase comes in, I guess, for you as well. Because when you close that deal or close that sale, that's when it starts for a customer, right? Because then they're actually going to start using your product.
Have you seen that mindset change? Because there used to be we have a project.
Yeah.
Launch new website.
Yeah.
The website is live, tick, and then we'll run maintenance or fix
done on to
critical
the next
issues.
Yeah. I think it's changing.
Yeah.
I think there's a type of developer that loves the more continuous development aspect than initially, right? And there's still people that thrive on that high value initial product phase, greenfield, and get that live as soon as possible. But those I think are merging or are two different types. But it is evolving, and I think development is a lot more important once it's already live, just to test assumptions and bring value that way for the customer.
Yeah.
Now that it's actually in their hands, right?
Yeah.
It used to just be you put it out there and they come.
Yeah.
That's not good enough anymore, because competition is there, as you mentioned.
No. I think where I've seen people struggle, because this type of topic is actually becoming more and more prevalent during the sales process.
Yeah.
So the sales process is not just about, hey, I have this product or service, and look, it has this feature.
Yeah.
And some overly exaggerated connection to ROI of this feature will save your company million.
Exactly.
That's just people are increasingly looking towards sales, and more importantly, the companies they're working with, to help them with that overall culture and operational change.
Yeah.
And I think especially with big organizations, they are so used to, even down to the way their procurement works, they're so used to buying something as a purchase for this particular project that is going to occur during these dates, and there'll be these benchmarks, and then it will go live, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really tough to change a lot of large companies that have done things a certain way for decades.
Yeah.
To get them to now see that, I'm really sorry, but digital or creating a new e-com platform is not a one-off project.
Exactly.
It's just now part of your BAU world.
Yeah.
And it's just your day-to-day operations now.
Yeah.
And there's no end to it.
Yeah.
Which people aren't that comfortable with yet.
No, I mean,
some organizations better than others, but
it's an ideal world if a software was just like this glass of water here, and I could just drink out of it, and that was it, right? I put it in a shelf, and that's that.
Yeah.
But it's so much more complex, right? It becomes inherent in your company, and you need to look after it. Otherwise, it has a negative value there, instead of it being a positive that you intended.
Yeah. That's where you get
strange.
into legacy and tech debt and stuff like that. But I don't even mean from the perspective of issues with the software or issues with the code, just functionally. You have to constantly deliver new features and functionality to customers in pretty much any industry I can think of.
Yeah.
And that need to always deliver more value has just gone up and up and up.
Yeah.
And that's where I think companies like the two that you and I work for can help, because I think companies are struggling to scale more and more to meet this ridiculously high demand. And I honestly don't know where it can go, because I feel like it's going to explode at some point.
Yeah.
Like if you think of how,
we need new tools that we can operate faster.
To find more efficiencies, because we're just going to be more and more stretched, because you obviously have companies now doing releases. I don't know what's the quickest you've seen, but it's multiple releases per day and stuff like that. It's
whenever you want it.
Yeah, it's just boom there, new customer feature.
Exactly.
Done. And customers are getting used to that.
Yeah.
And then that expectation is only going to increase.
Yeah.
So therefore, we only have to do more and more development, get it out quicker and test it quicker. And
I guess it's competitiveness on both sides, right? If you're a company and I'm making a glass, there's already millions of companies that can make that glass and will make that glass. So you need to distinguish yourself.
Yeah.
How do you do that? It's probably through something digital.
Yep.
Nowadays.
Yep.
Or you need to have a really good idea, and then it can just be your product.
Yep.
And basically make like some Shark Tank, like a weird hammock or whatever. That's rare, right?
Yeah.
But they still have their e-commerce platform, which looks gorgeous. And does what they need to, because they need to sell directly to customers. Right? It's no longer retail.
Yeah.
So that's where your dev team then comes in, and your technology part of your company. That's what you mentioned. Companies are technology first.
Yep.
Or it is as equal as their product development is when we're talking about a physical product, not a digital one.
Yeah.
So the services that a company offers to help with that digital process needs to be as good as what the company needs. Right. And a lot of companies see that, and therefore they build their own kind of solution towards that. And that's where then is even more competition, right?
Yeah. And it's just like,
yeah.
It just goes up and up and up and up.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And you can distinguish yourself through marketing. And I think you laid out a lot of what can distinguish you from a sales perspective, because companies need that. They need that trust, right? If I can flip a coin and 10 people want to catch it, then I need to find the right person to actually do that.
It's almost harder. I wouldn't like to be, I'm generally, obviously, as you can imagine, more on the selling side than the buying side.
Yeah.
You know, like any company, me and my team, we need different products and services, but we're sort of selling stuff 90% of the time. I think it's a very tough market and global scenario to buy things in. Yeah. Because there are more suppliers than ever. And there's more information than ever. Yeah. And that's also why the dreaded no decision happens a lot, because people are overwhelmed and it's a bit easy just to sort of stick with the status quo. Yeah. Even if it's not optimal, your business isn't going to fail tomorrow. Yeah. So that's what happens a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I really like what you said, that you already filter out the companies that are not a good fit, right? I heard a story about a salesperson that just kept hagging one of the CTOs of a company I know, down to the actually getting their number, calling the reception, and just stood up at their doorstep just to have that initial talk about, well, I have
Cold
this data. Yeah, I have this data platform and so and so and so. So the CTO, the guy looks at it and says, well, it's just not a good fit for where our company is. Like, you laid out a kind of a company phase and where your product fits. Where do you think we are on that scale? He says, well, I think you're right there. Like, it's a good fit. He said, no, we're actually way too early. So it's not a good fit, actually. So the CTO actually already made that conclusion of it's never going to fit. If the salesperson already had done that, they would save themselves a lot of time.
They made a mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why would they go after that? Do you know the particular scenario? Was it like a fancy company that they would just stop
not necessarily. No.
Yeah.
So even just getting customers to have that initial talk apparently is already quite hard.
That's the hardest bit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, people are very polite. Yeah. And generally people are friendly, and that's also why you need to be skeptical. It's so easy. You have a meeting, you might think it went flawlessly, and they'll say, yeah, Rich, sounds good. Yeah, very interested. Yeah. Because they're probably not going to tell me
shit.
That was quite poor, actually.
Exactly.
And actually, you personally, specifically, were quite poor.
Even worse.
Exactly. People just don't say that. So again, it's why that skeptical mindset comes in. Yeah. But you have the idea of inbound leads, which is people raising their hand, maybe because, like you said, they've engaged with a lot of your content. They've come to your website, they've called you or whatever. Yeah. Or hit you up on some sort of social platform. And they're saying, hey, I'd like to learn about your products and services. And then you have outbound, which is more what you described in that scenario. Yeah. So that seemed like it was a waste of time and poor qualification. Yeah. Or maybe even lack of understanding on the salesperson's part in terms of what their products or service solves. But you can actually flip that picture a lot. Like, you are much, much better investing your time chasing the right kind of organization, even if the results aren't immediately apparent, than perhaps just responding to a load of inbound leads, which you think are good because they have expressly said, I'm interested in your product or service, and reached out to you, but it doesn't mean it's a good opportunity. Yeah. It might not be a good fit.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Or they might only use a portion of the value that your product provides.
They might misinterpret the information that's out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Whereas just because someone isn't putting their hand up and saying, hey, I'd like to talk to you, doesn't mean that they shouldn't be prioritized over the other. Yeah. But it's easy as salespeople. They're often quite lazy as well in terms of like turning over enough stones and stuff. And we'll just spend a lot of time on those leads that come come easy, even if they're not the best fit.
Yeah. And you think the value for a sales team or a person actually lies more in that outbound than actually finding the right fit to what you're selling?
Outbound is the means to the end.
Okay.
I think what the value you want to look for in a sales team are people that know how to connect their product or services to the right buyers.
Yeah.
If that happens to be inbound leads, then amazing. Marketing is doing a fantastic job. And it'll always be a mix, by the way. It's never one or the other.
Exactly.
But if your best potential opportunities and your best fits aren't putting their hand up, then you want to focus your effort on outbound. Yeah. And it's not so simple as cold calls don't work anymore. Yeah. Even just cold emails, cold social messages often don't work either. Okay. So that's why going back to what you mentioned is both as a company and an individual, if you build up your profile, if you build up your credibility, if you sit in on webinars, if you author white papers or interesting LinkedIn posts and build your followers, etc. And then when you reach out to someone, like, oh, I actually want to talk to this person. Yeah. This person I think I could have a valuable conversation with. They also happen to sell a product or service, but the person in and of themselves is a bit of an expert that I'd like to connect with. Yeah. The networking thing you mentioned, right? Yeah. It's that value that you bring besides just the services you offer. Definitely. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, but it takes, you need to establish kind of a certain authority. I can imagine that years pass by before kind of a startup company has established that. It's easier said than done, yeah. Is it? It's hard. Yeah. So yeah, it's easier said than done. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my bad. Yeah. No, so it's easy to say you just got to do this. But yeah, that's why I think a lot of small companies are struggling. Yeah. Unless they've got some awesome niche or like they're involved in one of the founders is perhaps, a big name or something. Yeah. But then if we're talking about sales strategy, right, I kind of have an idea, but does that lie more in the inbound or the outbound, or is it completely different for both aspects? When you say sales strategy lies in the inbound or outbound, what do you mean? Let's say, well, for inbound, I can imagine, sales strategy would be we put out the right information. It's kind of hand in hand with marketing. We put out the right information on the right platforms. So maybe it is more of a marketing strategy. Yeah, definitely. Definitely? You would label it as that marketing strategy. Yeah, because marketing does everything up until when the lead comes in. Okay, yeah. And then sales takes over. Yeah. So that's marketing feeding sales, basically. Yeah. And from that point on, your sales process starts. Yeah. But before that, let's say that outbound kind of scale, then that's where your sales strategy comes in, right? Before it was cold calls or cold emails, that has evolved since then. Yes. But what does that look like? I think it's different for every organization. Yeah. And it's different according to who your buyers are. Yeah. But if you think of it basically in terms of channels, how are you going to meet people and be able to have a decent conversation? Yeah. So I already mentioned that I do think building a good profile and presence as an individual and as an organization on platforms like LinkedIn is important. Then you have things like webinar channels. Events are still actually pretty important. Okay. We've had some really good success recently with going to events. Yeah. Especially because everyone's just excited to go somewhere again. Exactly. And that helps. Meet people. Yeah. Where maybe you have the traditional booth or you just sort of chat at lunch with someone like, oh, you're at this organization. Oh, we do this. It'd be worth us having a chat. Yeah. Just already that social interaction. The fundamentals haven't changed, to be honest. Okay. In terms of when you're talking about outbound, it's just maybe the channels. You've got social channels, email. Email still works. Everyone still does. You're not going to throw away email marketing tomorrow by any means. But you've just got the modern channels, but they're still executed in the same way. Yeah. Credibility, relationships, expert knowledge, etc. Yeah. That makes sense. Do you think it'll evolve then in the future as well? Because it sounds like it's just basic principles that you should have in when you're interacting with each other. I'm not sure. It's a good question. They do say that sales for certain products or services, like enterprise B2B IT specifically, it is going to be hard to not have a sales function. Yeah. Obviously these days a lot of things can be automated, and the purchasing of basic products that don't need exploration can be automated to the nines. But I think if you're looking at like a long-term 5-year strategic partnership worth X number of millions or whatever, and it's quite a complicated product or service, I do think there's always going to need to be someone who's facilitating that buying process. Exactly. How exactly it will change, I think it's just going to continue to be more and more data driven. Yeah. more and more building credibility, being a thought leader, being knowledgeable, etc.
Yeah.
Rather than just being a talking puppet.
Yeah.
Talking about a product. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering though, so for development, it's very important to know your product. I think it is. And I think a lot of developers see that and it's evolving towards that.
Okay.
But I think for sales, it's just as important, right? You really need to understand what your product delivers in value before you can make a guess as to where it's a good fit or not.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say when you started saying is like, yes, you want to understand your product.
Yeah.
But to be honest, a lot of salespeople don't.
Yeah.
I think what's most important is understanding the customer.
Yeah.
Who are they? What are they? Like if I'm trying to sell to developers, if I have my product sheet and why it's good and what features it has, I might do okay.
Okay.
But if I can talk to someone like you and actually understand not just what are you looking for from this product, because that's still too narrow, but just literally understand like, who are you? Like, who do you hang out with? What do you do on a daily basis from a work perspective?
Yeah.
What are your challenges? What are your goals?
Yeah.
What are your pain points? What are like the annoyances and the frustrations that you have? If I actually understand you, then I can much better position that product or service, even if I'm not like the most technically sound on that particular product.
Yeah. I
still know way better how it can help you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why the disciplines are split.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? I think if you find someone who is amazing technically and amazing at sales, if you're a commercial leader, you should hire them immediately. But there's always a give and a take. You can't be 100 at both.
Exactly.
A bit more technical or a bit more salesy, and what's that balance look like?
Yeah. That's why I love when you mentioned it's always teamwork, right? Yeah. You're always working with a team. Yeah. It's so stupid because I never thought about that, but it does make a lot of sense when it goes down the line that you always rely on people around you.
Yeah.
Right. Some person might be better at that initial conversation, and some might be better at just explaining the technical details to their dev team, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And at the very least, you always have the salesperson, which is a bit more commercial process, people management type person, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
And then you'll have like a technical counterpart whose job it is to explain the product in more detail and build cred with the developers and stuff.
Exactly.
Or whoever your technical buyer is.
Yeah.
That's also an excuse though for some salespeople to be too lazy, and they basically become like admin, and they're just doing a few emails and having the technical person do it all.
Yeah,
but the salesperson still gets all the commission. Exactly. So I think that's always the battle that you have as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but then they don't really know their product, right? So it's harder for them to filter out.
They need that person.
Good prospects. That makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of stuff to think about with sales now.
Yeah.
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 I think we'll end it off there then.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Good chat.
This was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was good.
Great, man. Ladies and gentlemen.
We'll talk in detail about development next time.
Yeah, for sure. I'll have you on as a sales rep then.
Yeah.
Great. Everyone, Richard Kelsey. That's my bad.
No worries.
Beyond Coding. From your sponsors, Zebia, creating digital leaders.